this very broad stakeholder group, and I like the name that you have adopted. It is the National Consensus on Crime Fighting, which would have taken root out of previous meetings that we have had trying to build a national consensus. The last time we met was at the conference center when all stakeholders, including the opposition, came together to give their perspective. It was really a sharing of perspectives. We didn't necessarily reach a mind share at that point in time, but it is a work in progress. I want to thank you for your patience in reaching to this point. Obviously, the plans that were in place were disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic, and it, well, obviously would have distracted the government somewhat and our resources. But I believe it is timely that we are now back on track towards putting some form to the consensus that we are seeking to build. Anyone who understands how states emerge, how nations become states, will agree that the root of all of that, whether it is a good education system, a good economy, public order, it all starts with national security. So we have invested in building out our school infrastructure. Clearly, our school infrastructure is not at the level that which we could say we are satisfied. We have invested in building out our financial sector. We have invested in building out our physical infrastructure there, not at the level that you would be satisfied with. But when you compare that in a relative sense to the investment in building out the security architecture, then you begin to see that the very foundation of the nation state is underinvested. The political dynamic would not immediately allow for such a conclusion to be drawn, because we don't see, as a small island nation, the importance of national security. But as our state evolves and the world around us evolves, there are new and emerging threats which, if not addressed, will undermine the validity of the state. It will, in many ways, challenge whether or not Jamaica can be a going concern. And I'm using these terms guardedly because it will provoke a national discourse which I may not have the time, given COVID and Sahara dust and all the other issues that I have to address, to engage that debate. But I believe I need to say that national security is of such importance, foundational importance, that there has to be budgetary allocation that reflects it. Our opinion leaders, our political leaders, our academics have largely focused on crime. And for good reason. Crime is the hot button. It is the sensitive point where the public actually now feels the impact of weak national security. But the public doesn't interpret it that way, and the opinion leaders don't interpret it that way, and neither do the political leaders for many years. So there is a separation in the mind of the public between national security and crime and violence. So we would, in the Jamaican sense, we treat crime and violence as home affairs. Whereas the neighborhood in which we live, the era in which we live, our crime and violence can't be considered to be home affairs. It's not all domestic dispute. It's not all petty crime. Much of our crime, and you could look at the murder rate as a good index of the change in nature of crime in Jamaica, starting from the 90s. Late 80s, starting from the 90s. That much of our crime is driven externally. Narco trafficking, later on human trafficking, then money laundering, and now cyber. Much of our crime is driven as well by economic profit and gain, our ability to control our special economic zone, fishing and exploitation of other resources. So we have taken a very unsophisticated view of crime in Jamaica. So we see gangs and we see murders and we think it's just men on the corner killing each other. But we have never delved underneath to unearth all of that so that the public can make a connection between the state of your police stations, the number of cars that you have to respond, the intelligence capabilities to be able to secure your borders, secure your physical airspace, and secure your cyberspace, to limit those actors in your space who are seeking to bring drugs in and out, seeking to give free passage for human traffickers and illicit goods, those seeking to exploit your marine and other resources, those seeking to exploit, for example, your sand resources. We've never really made the link that you need to make an investment in your national security operations. So even the current conversation that is ongoing is about a consensus on fighting crime. Let me make the point that the government is always willing, and more than that, the government stands at your service.